Channel 8, keeping you informed on events in your community.
I'm calling to order the Wheat Ridge City Council meeting of April 9th, 2012. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the city clerk please take roll?
Davis Reinhardt.
Here.
Bud Starker.
Present.
Joyce J.
Present.
Christy Davis.
Here.
Mike Stites.
Here.
George Pond.
Present.
Joseph DeMott.
Here.
And Tracy Langworthy.
Here.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of March 26th, 2012?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion for approval was seconded by Councilmember Starker. Any changes to the minutes? Please poll the council.
Motion carries 7-0 with Mr. Pond abstaining.
Thank you. We have one proclamation tonight that's been combined for the Ralston House and the National Child Abuse Prevention Month. I would ask Chief Brennan and Linda Miko to please step forward to the podium, and our city clerk is going to read the proclamation. And please feel free to say anything afterwards on behalf of those two proclamations.
How's that? Can you hear that? Yeah. This is a proclamation for National Child Abuse Prevention Month, April 2012. Whereas over 500,000 American children suffer neglect or abuse every year, and whereas the work of raising our children stands among our greatest responsibilities and our most profound blessings, whereas the support we give and the examples we set form cornerstones for the success of our children, and whereas tragically neglect and abuse erode this fundamental promise for too many young Americans, whereas a strong and well-informed family unit is the surest defense against child abuse, it is also true that trusted friends and active community members can help ensure that all families get the support they need by fostering a safe environment for young people to learn and grow. Whereas the City of Wheat Ridge supports services that protect young Americans from abuse and neglect and extend help to those who have been affected. Whereas effective child abuse prevention programs such as Ralston House, which provides specialized, succeed because of partnerships among families, social service organizations, schools, religious and civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas the City of Wheat Ridge remains in partnership with the Ralston House, which provides specialized forensic interviews and examination services, now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and the City Council of Wheat Ridge do hereby proclaim the month of April 2012 as the City of Wheat Ridge Child Abuse Prevention Month, and renew the City of Wheat Ridge's commitment to break the cycle of violence, strengthen support for all who have been affected, and empower our young people with the best we have to offer, and recommit to that vision by providing opportunities for a better, brighter future for the sons and daughters in the Wheat Ridge community. And in witness of, on this 9th day of April 2012, Mayor Jerry DiTullio. Signed by Mayor Jerry DiTullio.
Thank you. We really appreciate this. Ralston House is a children's advocacy center in Jefferson County, and we work a lot with the Wheat Ridge Police Department along with the other police departments in Jefferson County. We conduct forensic interviews of children who may have been a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime. We conduct forensic medical exams of children who have been sexually assaulted and provide victim advocacy and family support to the families and the children. I'm holding these pinwheels here, and I'd like to give these to you. Maybe I can just hand them to you to pass on. The pinwheels are nationally a symbol of child abuse prevention, and we are selling them through Ralston House to raise awareness for child abuse prevention through our website, which is www.ralstonhouse.net. We're hoping to sell 857 pinwheels, which represents the number of children that we served last year through Ralston House. So we really appreciate the City of Wheat Ridge recognizing this month as Child Abuse Prevention, recognizing Ralston House, and trying to bring awareness to this issue. We really want to thank you, and we really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, do you want to say a few words too?
Just a couple. Thank you, Mayor. We do have a pinwheel garden. It's located in the entryway to the lobby. The police department has been selling pinwheels to try to raise funds for Ralston House. The most difficult cases that we investigate as law enforcement officers are the serious felony child abuse cases and the sex assault and incest cases. And we wouldn't be able to do the job that we do in those cases, as complex as they are, without the forensic interviewers and the forensic nurses and doctors that work at the Ralston House. So it's a great nonprofit organization. We've had a very strong collaborative working relationship with them over the years, and we really appreciate the work that they do for the children in our community that have that need. So thank you.
The next ceremony we have tonight, which is always fun, is we have the Wheat Ridge 6th and 8th grade essay contest winners. We have Dave Holland here tonight to give out the awards, and also Senator Sherry John was going to give out some awards from her and Sue Schaefer, Representative Sue Schaefer, and we have a representative here from Congressman Ed Perlmutter's house. So please step forward, and we'll have some recognition. Dave, would you ask the students that maybe just line up here so parents could take photographs if they want?
Yeah, when you get your award, just come up and stand in front. We'll take pictures at the end. How you doing? All right, my name is David Holland, and I'm representing my company, Broadridge. And every year we, for the past 9 years, our 9th year, we sponsor a Wheat Ridge essay contest. And so it's always a pleasure to come up here and do this and pass out the awards and get a chance to read all the essays from the young people. And it's always exciting to read the depth and the emotion that they showing these essays. And I want to thank a few people. The Jefferson Foundation also helps sponsors this contest, along with I want to thank Wheat Ridge High School, their National Honor Society. They grade the essays each year. So it's always a good time to participate in this event, and we always look forward to doing it. So what I'll do is this year we had 306 kids participate in the essay contest from all the elementary schools that feed into Wheat Ridge High School. So what I'll do, I'll read the names from the 7th place all the way to the 1st place winner. Also, I want to say, I lost my place. So this year we didn't have any 8th graders participate, so it's just 6th grade this year, and our topic was making a difference. So we have some representatives, Harry and Suzette from pass out some awards as well from the Congressman Perlmutter and representatives. So when you come up, shake everybody's hand and stand right up front here, and we'll take pictures. All right, our first winner was Alex Lombardi. Our next winner is Jacob Racky. Congratulations. Our next winner is John Potter. No, the show. Sorry. All right, our next winner is Amanda, I want to say Komo Kamazi. The next winner is McKinley Bartles.
David, you get a little closer to the mic when you're announcing the names.
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Next winner is Deanna, I want to say Blucher. I think she's at Outdoor Lab this week, so I'll get that over to him. And our overall winner this year is Dante Salomon, I believe. Congratulations. So I want to thank everybody again. Thanks for the City Council and the Mayor for having us. One thing I did forget to mention, these are all the finalists from the elementary schools, and what my company does as well, we donate $100 to each school for these kids in their name for participating. So thanks again.
Thank you much. Thank you to all the students, and congratulations to all the students, and thanks, Dave, for all your hard work.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is citizens' right to speak. Please step forward on any item not on the agenda to speak for 3 minutes, up to 9 minutes if you have people sign up for you. But this is any item not on the agenda this evening. And please spell your last name for the record. Might have to pull the mic down a little bit.
My name is Genevieve Wooden. Last name is Wooden. I am a resident of District 4 and a board member of Wheat Ridge 2020. I am the chair of the Community Building Events Committee for Wheat Ridge 2020 and just would like to update you on some of our upcoming events and some of the tours that we're having happen in Wheat Ridge. Live Local Wheat Ridge continues to be a popular program with between 60 and 90 people attending our once-a-month events. We partner with local restaurants to put on social events each second Thursday of the month to bring together local residents as they can discover and enjoy our local businesses. Live Local is this Thursday at Thai Green and Sushi from 5 to 8 p.m., and that is located in the Applewood Shopping Center next to King Soopers. The event special is a free house wine or beer with purchase of an entree. And the May Live Local will be at John's Chicago Style Barbecue, and that is on May 10th. Wheat Ridge 2020 also puts on several tours that help position the city of Wheat Ridge in the metro area and draw people into our city. The Wheat Ridge Garden Tour is coming up on Saturday, June 16th, and we are also currently evaluating homes that would desire to be in our mid-century and modern home tour that is scheduled to happen in September. If you have a home that would like to be considered, please contact Wheat Ridge 2020 office and speak with Kim. Our events committee has a lot of fun putting on and organizing these events. If you would like to volunteer at an event or get involved with the committee, please speak with me or contact Kim at Wheat Ridge 2020. Also, if your business is looking for community events to sponsor, or we have attractive sponsorship packages that help promote your business to our community, please contact myself or Wheat Ridge 2020 for more information. Thanks to all of our city leadership for being ambassadors for our community, and we hope to see many of you at these upcoming events. Thank you.
Thank you. Please spell your last name for the record and state your city or your address.
Jesse Hill, Hill, live at 2995 Chase Street in wonderful Wheat Ridge. Council, I'd like to thank you for taking a look at the study session rules on public comment. This is something that I truly believe will lead to a more engaged and educated citizenry, council, and staff. By providing this opportunity for public input, I'm confident that the overall policy process will be improved and will probably lead to fewer unintended consequences of said policies. For this, I strongly support the changes that you hopefully will implement and hope that council supports them also. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else here for public comment on any item that's not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes tonight to the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda will stand as published. Item 1 is a public hearing. It's Resolution 18-2012. Councilmember Langworthy.
Thank you, Mayor. The resolution number 18-2012, a resolution approving the service plan, Ward TOD, Transit-Oriented Development, Metropolitan Districts 1 through 3. There are minimum requirements for the types of information that a service plan must contain as detailed in Section 32-1-202, subsection 2 of the CRS. These are 1, a description of the proposed services, 2, a financial plan showing how the proposed services are to be financed, 3, a preliminary engineering or architectural survey showing how the proposed services are to be provided, 4, a map of the proposed special district boundaries and an estimate of the population and valuation of assessment of the proposed special district, 5, a general description of the facilities to be constructed and the standards of such construction, 6, a general description of the estimated cost of acquiring land, engineering services, legal services, administrative service, initial proposed indebtedness, and estimated proposed maximum interest rates and discounts, and other major expenses related to the organization and initial operation of the district. And 7, a description of any arrangement or proposed agreement with any political subdivision for the performance of any services between the proposed special district and such other political subdivision. As provided in 32 Section 1-203, subsection 2, CRS, the criteria for approval of a service plan includes those listed below. The district proponents must provide evidence sufficient for the City Council to make all the findings listed in paragraphs A through D. If they do not, Council must disapprove the service plan. If the district proponents do not provide evidence sufficient for the City Council to make the findings listed in the paragraphs E through I, Council may, but it is not required to disapprove the service plan. A, there is sufficient existing and projected need for organized service in the area to be serviced by the districts. B, the existing service in the area to be served by the districts is inadequate for present and projected needs. C, the districts are capable of providing economical and sufficient service to the areas within its boundaries. D, the area to be included in the districts has or will have the financial ability to discharge the proposed indebtedness on a reasonable basis. E, adequate service is not and will not be available to the area through the city or other existing municipal or quasi-municipal corporations, including existing special districts, within a reasonable time and on a comparable basis. F, the facility and the services standards of the districts are compatible with the facility and service standards of the city within which the districts are to be located and each municipality which is an interested party under Section 32-1-204, subsection 1 CRS. G, the proposal is in substantial compliance with the master plan adopted pursuant to Section 30-28-108 CRS. The proposal is in compliance with any duly adopted city, county, regional, or state long-range water quality management plan for the area, and I. The creation of the districts will be in the best interest of the area proposed to be served. Staff has reviewed the service plan in detail and concludes that all of the findings listed above are supported by the service plan. Motion in order?
No, we had this public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Does staff have any other presentation besides what was read in the executive summary?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to have Charlie Kiekenmeister from my office add to the staff report if I could.
Please spell your last name for the record. And
Council, my last name is spelled Kuechenmeister. I have been asked to make a brief staff presentation on the service plan before you this evening. As read by Council Member Langworthy, the staff has reviewed the service plan in detail and can recommend to you or represent to you that certainly the service plan does present a prima facie case as to all of the elements that are required to be established in order for you to approve the service plan. In other words, all of those approval criteria set forth in Section 203 of the Special District Act are demonstrated by this particular service plan. At least there's a prima facie case for that. We haven't heard any evidence opposing the service plan. I haven't heard any arguments against it, but if there's no other evidence, then what's before you is sufficient upon which to base a finding of approval. I was going to go over the elements of the required elements of the service plan, but the introduction took care of that as well. We find that the service plan does contain all of the elements required of service plans by state law. We have been involved in some fairly, this service plan was presented on somewhat short notice. Staff did not have what we are used to having in terms of the lead-up time in order to work with the proponents on this, but I will say that your staff and the proponents made very substantial efforts to furnish the efforts that were needed to make this thing come together in a timely way, and we're satisfied that the proponents have made the changes that we had asked of them, reasonable changes, and the service plan before you right now is something that I think we can recommend favorably to you. I don't want to belabor. There are lots of information involved here, and I don't want to go on unduly because representatives of IBC LLC, the proponent of the service plan and the developer of the area that's included within the district, is here tonight with their counsel, Russ Dykstra of Grimshaw and Herring, and they can answer, and I think they'll probably want to make a brief presentation in support of the service plan. But I do want to emphasize that we are available for any questions that you might wish to ask of your own city attorney's office as to any issues that arise either now or later on during the public hearing. As you know, the main purpose of metropolitan districts is to provide two things. First of all, a way to finance public improvements in a newly developing area, and secondly, to provide a unit of local government to own, operate, and maintain certain items of infrastructure that are not going to be conveyed to the city or some other operating agency, such as CDOT, typically, for operation and maintenance. And this district is proposed to do both of these things, to finance the public improvements and also to own, operate, maintain some of them, those that are not going to be conveyed to the city for operation and maintenance. And I'm sure Mr. Dykstra and IBC will be happy to address in detail those considerations. But I did want to present you some basic overview of the reason for special district to be organized for this particular development. The revised service plan does eliminate questions that we had earlier about what property was to be included within the districts. And one point I do want to make very clear is that There is no property in this proposed special district that is not owned by IBC, the developer. There are no other parties involved that have property within the area of the proposed district. So with that, I'll open this to questions that you may have of me at this time, and if you have none, then I'll turn the hearing over to Russ Dykstra.
Actually, we're going to go to the applicant first, and we'll come back around for questions.
All right, great.
So will the applicant please step forward, and please spell your last name for the record, each of your associates, city and or address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Brian Mott. The last name is spelled M-O-T-T, and my home address is 1874 Foothills Drive in Golden, Colorado.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. We're excited to be here tonight. As Charlie indicated, they've covered a lot of ground, and I just sort of want to say thanks to staff. They've worked hard in concert with our council, Russ Dykstra here. And Russ is much more capable than I am in terms of answering the nuances and the technicalities of the formation of the district. And so I'm going to leave a lot of that to him to the extent that you have questions in that regard. But I guess I want to go back a little bit in history and just talk a little bit about the vision of where this all started. I looked at a document this morning that was dated June 2006, so it was the Northwest Sub-area plan. And I think that sub-area plan, the notion or the idea, the vision for it was probably conceived in late 2005. And so one of the points I'd really like to make is that this application for the formation of these special districts is really just for us the first step in seeing that vision come to pass. We're going to be before you hopefully again in another 60 days or so with a little bit more formal application for rezoning our property, again consistent with the code that you all adopted. I guess it was about a year ago, and so we'll see one another again on some of those matters. But these districts, as Charlie aptly pointed out, really for the financing and the improvements of the infrastructure out there is what we're before you tonight on. So I'll make myself available for questions, but I'll turn it over to Russ.
Thank you. Please spell your last name for the record. And
good evening, Council. My name is Russ Dykstra from the law firm of Grimshaw and Herring. D-Y-K-S-T-R-A is my last name. I want to follow up what Brian said and once again thank staff very much. Everyone has been unbelievably accommodating and receptive in reviewing this and working with us. We realize it's been on a short time frame, and we truly do appreciate the city staff's work. Following up on what Brian said, I want to keep it real brief, but the districts are basically a tool to make that vision for that sub-area and for the IBC property in particular happen. As you know, that area is pretty much undeveloped as it sits right now. So we're going to need streets, sewer, landscaping, open space areas, storm drainage. All of those improvements, as stated in the service plan, are going to be in the neighborhood of $20 million. What the districts can do to help with that is use tax-exempt financing to help lessen the cost for those improvements because the interest rates are much less. And it also gives an opportunity for a governmental entity to maintain and control those improvements over a longer period of time. Of course, the ones that aren't passed on to the city are dedicated to other entities. We have talked to the Valley Water District, which serves the water for the property. They are very enthusiastic about this. We've talked to the fire department. They actually passed a resolution in favor of this, supporting it and approving the service plan, as did the Fruitdale Sanitation District. They passed a resolution saying that they were in support of this and they would work with our districts in providing the sewer service to the property. One thing to note is that just because the districts are in place, this isn't a free ride for the developer. This is just the main infrastructure, the big ticket items. There's probably double what we're talking in other infrastructure that's going to have to be paid separately by the developer as well. And the other thing I think we want to point out is that these improvements, while the district only covers the IBC property right now, these improvements such as the intersections, the signalization, the extension of the main lines for water and sewer, et cetera, will ultimately benefit this entire area as it develops over time and redevelops. So with that, I don't want to belabor it either, so we'll be available for any questions should you have any.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next section is public comment. Please step forward if you'd like to make any comments on agenda item number 1 from the public. After that, we'll move on to city council questions and discussion. Do you have anybody from the public who'd like to speak for or against this for agenda item 1? Please step forward and spell your last name for the record. You could just line up along the wall and please step forward one at a time and state your comments.
Yes, I am John Sillessen, Cillessen, own property at 12200 West 52nd Avenue, adjacent to this property. One of my major comments on this is, first I heard about any of this being in a hearing. Of course, I'm not in town a lot, but being an adjacent owner, I thought I would have at least got a letter. What first thing I heard about it was 5 o'clock tonight. So I don't even know what all is being planned, but I've been to most of the planning meetings for the RTD. What little bit I've already looked at here this evening since I got here, this doesn't all match. And I don't know that it matches the new comprehensive plan that went into place, whatever it was, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. That's my comments on this. So I don't have the information. I can't really say whether it's good or bad. But.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Brett Hall. Last name is Hall. I'm representing Berners Sutherland Properties at 12250 West 52nd Avenue. My comments exactly mirror Mr. Silleson's comments. First I knew of this was late Friday afternoon. I don't know if this is a benefit to our property or a detriment to our property. We've not had time yet to evaluate this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Harmsen, Harmsen. I own the property that borders IBC to the east. I didn't find out about this until last Friday, and I'm a little surprised with the communication that goes on in the neighborhood that we've never been told, asked, or invited to come to any of the meetings. And it just amazes me with what goes on out there. Now we're talking about a $20 million project, and I see a parking structure that's being offered. And when I talked to RTD this morning, they're not interested in a parking structure because they've spent the last 3 years designing a train station and a parking lot on my property. So I don't understand why all of a sudden now we need a 1,000-car parking structure on this and 400 apartments when there's been no communication with the surrounding neighbors. So it would be nice if we get a little more communication and know what's going on. And Brian Mott several months ago sent me a proposal wanting to trade me 4 acres of ground for 7 acres of my ground, and was never informed that he was putting this program together. So if it's good for us, it would have been nice that somebody would have told us. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Sean Baker, Baker, and I own property at 5040 Ward Road with a couple of other partners. We've owned this property for over 50 years. It's been an asset to the neighborhood, providing neighborhood services for auto repair and auto body. And I was recently informed that the street is going to be improved, and we'll lose all street parking on 50th Place that is the primary entrance to both my property and the subject property. My concern is I just received this 62-page document this morning when I found out this was going to happen. So I felt a little bit blindsided. I've been asking for months what's happening to the street. I know there's going to be curb and gutter on there. I've been asking if it's going to be widened or need to be widened, and no one can really confirm that to me. I understand that services are going to need to be developed on the subject property, but I'd really like to understand how the development of this structure, the utilities and the street itself are going to impact this major street that will become a major street. at some point. It seems like it'd be nice to see the whole plan before the financing's approved. Obviously, if they're planning at the level of a parking structure, there is a plan in place that goes beyond the sewer, water, and street layout. So I hope that we can improve the communication flow so that neighbors immediately adjacent to this property are informed how it's going to impact them in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dahl, did you want to address the notification issues since this is not as rezoning?
Sure. Under the special district statute, notice is required to go to the owners of the property within the proposed district. And as I think Charlie mentioned, the IBC entity is the owner of that property. So therefore, notice was not required to be sent to adjacent property owners because it's this particular property owner's financing tool that they're asking you to approve them moving forward with. To the extent, and I'm sure there will be, an accompanying development approval for this development on the land use side. That's something the council typically sees a lot more of. In fact, that's what you see all the time. That development approval, of course, will go through the notice and hearing procedures that we have for all land use developments. Notice will go out for that. And the design, et cetera, the uses proposed, the design, location, street access, et cetera, all has to be addressed, of course, in a land use approval, this being not a land use approval but a financing approval. I don't disagree at all that adjacent property owners don't have an interest in what happens there, and I'm not saying that whatsoever. What I am saying is that the development issues are ones that are raised in the land use review process. I don't know if Ken Johnson wants to add anything. Have I covered it?
Just briefly, that I think council is aware, as Mr. Mott made note of in his comments, there has been submitted a land use application to propose to rezone, again, just the IBC Holdings property, a privately initiated rezoning application to change the zoning from its current mix of planned industrial and straight industrial to the new mixed-use commercial transit-oriented development, which is a zoning district that's designed to be located generally within a half mile of transit stations or planned transit stations, which this property would be in. So, yes, there's a planning commission hearing that's been scheduled coming up in April for that item, and then there'll be subsequent city council public hearings on that application as well.
And neighbors will be notified of those?
Yes.
Any other questions, comments from council? Before I close the public hearing, Mr. Reinhardt, we'll just go down the line. Mr. Reinhardt, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I have a series of sort of of questions. I guess I'd like to start with I guess let me just start with a couple of questions for our city attorney. The language in the mill levy cap stumped me. As I understand the environment that we're in, there's statutory limits on mill levies at, I don't recall, it seems like 50 mills and 10 for the special district. But
please go ahead and go to the mic.
The language in the section on the mill levy cap seems to suggest there's some variation, and it was sufficiently complicated that I flunked the test on what it meant.
If Mr. Reinhardt is thinking about what I think he's thinking about, there is a provision in the service plan for a 50 mil cap on the debt service mill levy. This does not cover the operations mill levy, but just the debt service. And the adjustment to that limit would occur if, for some reason, the way that property is valued for assessment should change. As you know, residential property is assessed at approximately 8% of its value, and commercial property is currently assessed at 29% of its fair market value, according to the assessor. Those are the basic guidelines there, and what this language in the service plan attempts to address is if during the course of the debt repayment, the 30 years or whatever it is, that method of assessment should change materially so that a mill levy of 50 mills would either be wildly excessive or not produce enough revenue to pay the debt, then in those circumstances, the cap could be adjusted to meet or to produce the revenues necessary to service the debt in light of the new assessment ratios. So that's the reason for why we say there's a 50 mil cap, but that can change. It would only change to meet those circumstances, which are probably not going to occur.
And if I read it correctly, though, the increase, potential increase in the levy is at the sole discretion of the Metro District Board?
It would be limited to what is necessary to produce the same tax revenues to pay the debt service.
But the shortfall in the tax, the whole point of a cap limit is to deal with the situation, to avoid exactly the situation where the Metro District unilaterally decides to raise the mill levy cap to suit their financial needs, not the other way around. What's the point of a cap with a...
The key thing would be they could raise the mill levy, but it still can't produce any more dollars in tax revenues. That's the protection there that the taxpayers would have. The only way this mill levy cap can be raised, for instance, would be if the assessment ratio became so low that 50 mills would not cover the debt service. In that circumstance, the mill levy would rise, but it would still produce the same amount of tax revenue, dollars, that would be necessary to service the debt. So even though the mill levy might be able to be raised by the district, they still can't get any more dollars out of the taxpayers than is necessary to service the debt.
I'm gonna chew on that for a little bit.
Okay, I guess it's kind of a no harm, no foul kind of provision, because if the current mill levy of 50 mills is producing $100,000 of tax revenues each year to service the debt, and then the assessment ratio goes way down, particularly for the commercial ratio, so that 50 mills would only generate $75,000 on the assessed valuation of the district. The district could raise that 50 mills until it would reach a mill levy that could produce the $100,000 that's necessary to service the debt.
I would argue that if by chance I owned a piece of property that was decreasing in value and my mill levy was going down, that it would be not necessarily at the sole discretion of the beneficiary of that mill levy that go back up. And if indeed the whole structure, I'll save it for another day. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll move on. This is for the planning director. Do you feel that this that as outlined, to the extent that this plan outlines it does, that this is structured to meet all of our planning goals, our area plans, and our comprehensive plan, and is consistent with all of those documents that we've put into place for this area?
I do. The land use mix that's projected in the service plan is consistent with the land use mix that's recommended in the Northwest Subarea plan. The street grid, which is real important for us, that's reflected in their preliminary engineering drawings, is consistent with the street grid that's reflected in the Northwest Subarea plan as well. And the concept of a shared parking relationship with RTD was also a concept that was included in the Northwest Subarea plan as well.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'd like to go back over here. Notwithstanding what happens if there's a shortfall in the tax revenues to support the potential bonds, is there any circumstance under which, I think I know the answer, but I'd like to hear you tell us that the shortfall in the bonds where the developer and or the Metropolitan District would have any recourse against the city?
No. Just no.
I got it. Yeah. That's but then I guess my last question for the moment is then for the applicant, and that is that this entire structure within an urban renewal district is essentially set up in a way that turning these around into a tax increment financing request would take about 15 minutes down the road because all the structural elements are there. Is it at this time, recognizing you can't answer for all time in the future, you think it likely that this project would require a tax increment financing component in either the sales or property tax?
For the record, Russ Dykstra again. No, sir. We've had those conversations with city staff, and at this time we don't contemplate nor have a desire to implement a TIF at all unless it's at the city's request, but we have no plans whatsoever for that.
Thank you. I think I'm done for now.
Thank you, Ms. Jay.
There was a statement that I heard tonight that I'm a little concerned about, but which was that IBC would be the owner, operator, and maintainer of the facilities. And I'm thinking of the fact that, well, you currently own that property, that some of it I would think would be sold to the residences or, the multi-housing, whatever it is. And I wanted to make sure that their interests were protected as far as those facilities being maintained. And this may not be appropriate, but it struck kind of a chord with me.
First of all, the public facilities that are built by the district will not be owned by IBC. They'll be owned by the Metro District itself.
Okay.
So that's point number one. Secondly, residents, persons who reside in the area of the districts would be able to run for positions on the boards of directors of districts 2 and 3, the financing districts.
Because they are owners then.
That's true.
Okay. That's helpful. And then the other thing I wondered about the expediency, since the planning started in 2009, we're sort of at a point here where the service contract must be looked at this time, and I'm kind of wondering what was the delay up to now.
I'd have to turn to the developer to answer that question.
That's a very good question, and it has to do mostly with trying to get everything in order so that we can present the requirements of the statute in the service plan. To get the basic engineering done, the financing plan done, things of that nature, we have to have at least a bubble diagram of what's being proposed there, and it's taken a while with the economy to kind of figure out what the market's going to be and things like that so that we can make as accurate of projections as we possibly can.
I guess I would assume then the decision to go forward with this was sort of with the economy. There was some tinkering around about whether it was a valid and solid plan to do.
Yes, ma'am. It was, and the immediate expediency is special districts can only be formed at elections in May or November so that we can get the elected authorization, because since they are a government, those are the statutory elections for those entities to be formed. So,
okay.
Mr. Starker?
Thank you. I wanted to start with Mr. Dahl's partner, and I'm sorry that I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name.
Mr. Smith. Is it Mr. Smith?
No. Speaking myself. As I understand it, you, Mr. Dahl, informed me before that you had prepared the attachment number 1, the resolution, and in the resolution, which is our attachment number 1, establishing the Metropolitan District. We at the end of the fourth whereas, you talk about the proposed special districts boundaries that have levied an ad valorem tax within the next preceding tax year. And I wasn't sure what the next preceding tax year was.
It's the word next is kind of superfluous. It's just the preceding tax year.
Okay. Thank you. As I read through this package over the weekend, I got it on Thursday afternoon, And I know that sometime about a month ago, we had the opportunity to meet in a study session and have the desire of the developer come forward with this plan. And I spent a good deal of this weekend kind of going over the details of the plan, which I'm not a real estate developer or a financing guy, found kind of complicated, and I want to know why this wasn't brought to a study session so that we could, in a reasonably fluid forum, ask questions in depth, which I think we're obligated to ask now to understand the context of the plan before we go forward with it. So is there a reason why we didn't get it in a study session?
Mr. Starr, I believe it's the timing of the process to fast track this for them. The study session that we did present it to City Council, we had the information we had at the time. And I believe our message to the council at that point was we were working with the applicant and reviewing the service plan at that time. April 9th tonight is the last official meeting that council can approve the service plan to stay on their schedule to get it to district court to make it for the May election. So there just wasn't time to do a full study session on the final service plan.
There hasn't been time yet?
No.
Okay. Because we've been working on it since 2005. Was that it? On the development?
Staff received the service plan at the end of March.
Right. I had a question why the basis in the financial analysis has a zero value for the existing land or improvements.
I'm going to defer to the developer on that. That's
okay.
Their financial plan.
The financial plan was created by George K. Baum, and they do a lot of bond financing throughout the state of Colorado. And it's very typical when we form these to use a zero basis for land value so that you can see what the incremental increase is from the development that it generates by itself without having to round to the nearest penny of what the residual value is right now, which, could be debated one way or the other by our appraiser versus the assessor's office. So it's just easier for understanding and analysis purposes just to see, okay, what if you started at zero, what will the development generate over the course of the project?
As I understand, part of the task that we're asked to opine on is whether the financing plan is adequate. And without going into the details of it, which I don't really get all of it, it seems to me that for the first 3 or 4 or 5 years, there's really not revenue generated out of the bonds. And yet there's nothing in the plan that tells me what the financing plan is for those first 3 or 4 or 5 years. It says it's going to be from the developer. But other than the developer's LLC, there's no analysis of where is this money coming from.
And again, that's a very good question, and I apologize that you spent all weekend looking at this because I've looked at them for many years. And
no, it's not uninteresting.
It's very typical with these metro districts where they start out with, again, a relatively small assessed valuation. Normally, they're vacant property until that development generates enough tax revenue to spin off enough property taxes to support itself that the developer will enter into an advance and reimbursement agreement with the district where the developer will agree to advance X number of funds for the first however many years until the district gets on its feet financially. And then once the district issues bonds, the district agrees to repay that advance once we get to that stage and can support it.
Is that financing arrangement part of this plan?
It is not.
Okay.
Because that's usually an external thing. And I'll tell you recently, it used to be in the good old days of 5 years ago where a project like this, you could issue bonds basically the first day. You could do it on a speculative basis almost. So many of those bonds have had trouble to where the bond market just will not. You cannot issue bonds right now in the current environment on that type of a project. So it's very common to have the developer reimburse our advance funds up until that time.
Would it have been unreasonable to have a section in here on the developer's wherewithal and financial capacity to do that?
Not unreasonable. In my experience of doing these for 12 years, it's pretty rare to have that. The whole thing with the districts is whether the developer advances the funds or not. Under Colorado law, the district cannot expend money that they don't have in the bank or have committed funds to them. So we can't do anything as a district until those funds are certain and in the bank before we can commit to any expenditures whatsoever. So if the developer decides, hey, we don't want to advance funds to you, the districts can do nothing. And we just sit there until the developer decides, let's get going. So it's a mutually reliant situation where if the developer wants the infrastructure, they're going to have to advance the funds to get the districts up and running. If they don't, then the districts do nothing.
Has that ever arisen a case where the developer sort of gets partway through it? You know, you get maybe water and sewer under the ground and you just can't quite get the roads paved or something like that, and it sort of pulls off and doesn't go any further for a while? Or
In the last couple of years, that's been very prevalent. There's a number of projects out there where it's happened, and quite frankly, the districts just sit and wait for the next owner of the property to come in and then get everything going again, and we keep going.
Yeah, the special district is only one element of the development, and it's as Russ said earlier, it's just a tool. It's a tool that the developer can use if he wants to. He doesn't have to. The city's guarantees for the kind of situation you mentioned, sir, where the water and sewer lines get in the street, but he can't quite get the streets paved. That sort of thing is again taken up in the land use approval process. You don't let the developer get started with the development without making certain that you've got improvements guarantees in your subdivision agreements for them to, so that if financing gets started, the work gets started, there's holes in the ground and then everything stops. The city should have an improvements guarantee, and probably does in its land use regulations, to provide for exactly that situation. It goes against the developer directly, personally, not against the district, because as Russ pointed out, until the district has some assessed valuation and can raise taxes, it can't do anything. It has no money and no way to get money. It's all between the city and the developer in those early stages.
Thank you very much for making that clear. Let me ask you another question while you're there, and I think you just mentioned that the citizens who are living in the apartment complex, I think the 477 units, would have the right to be on the board of directors of District 1 and District 2 and District 3, which were the financing vehicles, if I understood it, but not District 1, which is sort of the operational.
That's correct. That's correct. The control of District 1 is maintained by the developer. The reason for that would be to make certain that there's continuity over the years and make certain that the development plan can be accomplished.
Thank you.
Mr. Dykstra would like to speak to that.
And if I could, and that's during the development phase only, so that there's one entity that's responsible for all the contracting, so all the improvements are in. Once the improvement's done and the development is done, District Number 1 it'll probably end up where Districts Number 3 and Number 2 consolidate into District Number 1, and the residents will take over the whole thing.
So District 1 is really just the organizer and the builder, if you will, of the improvements and the infrastructure going on.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Well, why don't we let someone else have a chance?
Do we have any other questions or comments from council? Ms. Davis?
I just have a quick question that was brought up in our study session, and it started with the discussion that this district would begin with the 15.5 acres, with possibly growing with the adjacent properties next to it. What would that process look like? So if people wanted to join the district, adjacent property owners, what does that look like?
There's a statutory process for including your property into the district. It's similar to people annexing into a city. It typically comes from the petition signed by the owners of 100% of the fee interest of the property proposed for inclusion or annexation to the district. At that point, there's notice and public hearing, and the governing body of the district acts on the inclusion petition much the same way City Council acts on annexation petitions. It's a statutory process. It is possible for a district to include property that is not owned by a petitioning landowner, but that would require an election, and it's very rarely used. 99% of the inclusions that I've been associated with in my special district practice have been by what we call 100% petitions, where 100% of the area proposed for inclusion is owned by the person signing the petition. There's no way, it's very difficult to force property into a district whose owners does not want to come into the district. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. DeMott?
For Mr. Kuchenmeister still. As I said, this doesn't come up very often, and I've never been through the process with the Longs Peak District or anything. So I'm just going to ask you in some plain terms if I'm thinking correctly. We assume that, just for the sake of argument, there is another property owner, or say there's 3 property owners, different properties. So adjacent properties around there, they all get together and they say, we want to form a special district.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've read, if there were multiple owners, not of one property, I guess multiple properties, I'll say, and they wanted to form a special district or a district like this, they would need a 50% plus vote to achieve that.
Okay, there's organizing a special district is a 2-step process. The service plan review is the first step. After that, the owners of the property have to go to district court and petition the district court for organization once the city, in this case, has approved a service plan. And at that point, there are certain thresholds that need to be made or met in terms of how much of the assessed valuation has to be represented. It's not by parcel, it's really by percentage of the assessed valuation of the property that's proposed for inclusion in the district. But again, typically,
that's 50% of
that's it. Okay. And also, there is a provision in state law that if the persons presenting the service plan do not own all of the property in the area of the proposed district, the owners of property representing more than 50% of the assessed valuation of the property proposed for inclusion in the district can file an objection. And if such objection is filed, the city cannot approve the service plan. But of course, that situation does not occur here because all of the property is owned by the person proposing the service plan.
Okay. And then, and I think Mrs. Davis asked my second question. I think that's it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before I close the public hearing from council? Oh, Mr. Starker.
And I'm not sure who to direct this to, maybe Mr. Dykstra. As part of your plan, one of the motivations to form the plan is to enter into agreements with the RTD to coordinate the parking facility. If the plan goes forward as currently constituted, would you be the only negotiator, if you will? And we've had some other public comment about other negotiations going on with the Regional Transportation District with respect to the parking.
Well, as Mr. Johnstone brought up, there is discussion about having a combined parking facility for this site. We have been in discussions with RTD about this. Obviously, RTD cannot agree instantaneously to say, yes, we're going to do that. But we are in discussions with them, and that is one of the rushes, if you will, about getting these entities formed. I've personally done 2 of these now where RTD prefers to enter into these long-term agreements with governmental entities such as a metropolitan district. It's being done in Arvada, and it's also being done at the federal station on this line alone, because that is a governmental entity, and it does have a perpetual future, so that they know it's not just a developer who could go broke tomorrow and be gone, and all of a sudden they're stuck with a parking garage and nobody to maintain it. So That is one of the aspects of this. Obviously, with Denver Transit Partners involved, there are a lot of moving pieces in that process that we're trying to work through right now.
Mr. Reinhardt?
I just want clarity on one more thing. All the facilities that would be built, what I guess what's the standard that for public availability, the public usability of all the facilities? Can they build a parking structure and then say it's limited access, or some of it is limited access, or does it all have to be? In particular, I'm asking about the parking structure because I understood there to be some use restrictions associated with it.
If it's financed with public funds, it has to be available for public use.
And in terms of your definition of public funds, the mill levy for the Metropolitan District meets the criteria for public funds?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We're in the city council comment and question phase now. Any other questions or comments before I close the public hearing? Ms. Jay?
Let me ask one more. Under other financial information, one of the paragraph reads, a system of fees and charges may also be established for landscape maintenance, drainage maintenance, and transportation improvements and other improvements not owned and operated by the city or other entity. I think I'd like more of an explanation of that as to this beyond the... I just need an explanation of that statement.
That is a catch-all phrase in there to cover thing. And I should back up, another power that a district has is if it contracts with a homeowners association, for instance, it can be the entity that takes care of like the landscape parcels and things like that. Also, that would catch things like for the parking garage, for instance, if that's there, the district can actually charge a fee for parking there. Okay. So those would be those types of fees.
It's allowing that ability to do that.
Yeah. We don't have anything specific at this point in mind, but in the future for the operations aspect of it, we just leave that wiggle room in there so that we could if we had to.
Okay. It's not paying back the debt. Okay.
No, that won't be for debt service.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments before I close the public hearing? I'm going to close the public hearing and a motion's in order.
I move to approve resolution number 18-2012, a resolution approving the service plan for the Ward TOD Metropolitan Districts 1 through 3.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion for approval as stated in the packet. It was seconded by Councilmember Stites. Discussion on the main motion. Please poll the council. Mr. DeMott.
I just had a question on the more like a statement. I'd like to pose a question to letter B of the requirements to approve the service plan and the projected needs. As we said, we have been going through this for a long time, and even I've been here 2.5 years, and even then we've had very, very few changes in the RTD plan. But not one of those changes has involved a parking garage. So that we heard about this a month ago, that all of a sudden we need a parking garage, and this would fit in our projected needs. I would have to question that that would be anything that would be needed in that area. We do have a property owner. We've had drawings as recently as August that even in our sub-area plan that involve the RTD platform and station, as well as parking spaces up to 800 spaces. And I know RTD hasn't purchased land yet, but their plan does involve at least 7 acres up there. So my question would be, RTD is going to have to purchase land pretty quickly to start getting this rolling. And the land that they are purchasing is between the station and the parking garage. So I don't know the exact distance between what would be the parking garage or even this property, the corner of this property and the station, but I'm not sure that I would call that a necessity for this project to go forward, or the Northwest Sub-Area Plan. And I noticed a few of these drawings don't involve a parking garage, but the rest of the plan does fit in with what we're looking for in the Northwest Sub-Area Plan. I'm just not sure that what we're looking for is a parking garage. Or would it enhance the property, but parking garage enhance the value of any of the property around there? That's my opinion. As we see, there's plenty of parking in here, but there's numbers in here that would say a parking garage is going to cost $12,000 per space. And I just think that, I just can't see that being I don't think that's a very good use of if we're going to call it public money, or soon to be public money, when we're going to have probably what I would consider more than adequate space. If there's up to 7 acres of parking on RTD, I would call that adequate parking space. And I'm afraid that once you get 7 acres of parking in there, that $12,000 per space is going to look less and less ideal.
So, may I comment? I don't know what the right number of spaces are, but I do know that I'm relatively comfortable that our long-term plan, and there's a long-term benefit out there somewhere for having a situation that has structured parking. I don't know when that gets there, and I think what we're being asked to do is allow for the possibility for them to create a financial structure that would allow them to do that. But its viability today, I don't know that's been totally proven to me tonight. I struggle with, what I do believe is that if the opportunity is not taken tonight, or maybe I don't know that I believe it's tonight, maybe I believe that 6 months from now, at the next hearing when we have more data and more time, would be soon enough. But for the purpose of discussion, let's say I think we have to decide tonight. I'm not convinced that I am convinced that we are likely to, if that deadline is valid, we're likely to have lost the opportunity for this developer to make his best deal. And what we'll end up with is the 300-some spaces on the ground that are probably all that's needed today, but it will definitely limit that highest and best use in 20 years. I think that I believe to be true. I'm still uncomfortable with this because of the way it was brought forward, the timing, and my problem is D, and whether in fact we've been demonstrated that there's a financial ability within this site to generate the revenues to repay this debt on a reasonable basis. But I do get over the hurdle you're struggling with for whatever that's worth.
No, and I agree. I understand what we're looking at tonight, and I feel like we're being asked to rewrite the sub-area plan tonight, right now. Do you guys see this? They're asking, do you see this as a use? I'm looking at the other 90% of this, and yeah, it fits into our Northwest area plan. But like I said, the validity of it is, it says, it's asking me, and I'm asking myself, and you guys are going to ask yourselves, do you see, is there a present or projected need for this? I don't see it. I just don't see it.
I guess for whatever it's worth.
That's more of a comment than a question. I just don't see that.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I guess I got to the projected.
Yeah, but then again, like I said, I'm not a developer, and I'm not saying I'm not here to tell anybody what to do on their property. It's their property. But I just feel like the process that it came forward, it was rushed. I've never seen a picture or a need for a parking garage, and it just feels like it's coming awful fast for something that I've never seen or heard anybody say we need. It's just all of a sudden 2 weeks ago we need it. That's all. I just don't understand that.
Any other comments before we vote?
Yeah. You know, I think we probably have a need for a metro district at this location. I think it's probably ideally suited for a metro district. One of the two things that really disturb me, or three, one is sort of the process that we happen to be in. Number two is that we haven't been able to include or reach out to the other adjacent property owners, because I think it would be a far much more enhanced plan and much more enhanced metro district if we were to be able to include adjacent landowners so that they kind of were in on the formation of the metro district. They could help coordinate development at the TOD with their properties. And number three, I think from a specific, I know it's maybe not generally included, but I think the developer is going to be responsible for a good deal of the financing of this plan for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, and that was not part of the plan.
Any other questions or comments before we vote? Please poll the council.
Motion carries 6-2 with council members Davis and Starker voting no.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is decisions, resolutions, and motions. Item 2, Councilmember Stites.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce a motion to approve payment to JPK Micro Supply Incorporated, City of Industry, California, in the amount of $47,640 for the replacement of 60 desktop computers. Is a motion in order?
Motion's in order.
I move to approve payment to JPK Micro Supply Incorporated, City of Industry, California, in the amount of $47,640 for the replacement of 60 desktop computers.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion for approval of item number 2, seconded by Councilmember DeMott. Please poll the council.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you. Item 3, Councilmember DeMott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion to approve the annual police radio system contract payment to the West Metro Fire Protection District in the amount of $97,683.75 for the police radio system services. In 2005, the City of Wheat Ridge entered into an IGA with West Metro Fire Protection District for an annual contracted radio services. These services include technical support, system maintenance, equipment repair, a lease agreement for the Mount Morrison antenna site, and associated software and hardware costs. These services have provided significant improvement to the department's radio infrastructure and improved public safety in our community. Is motion in order?
Motion's in order.
I move to approve the annual radio contract payment to the West Metro Fire Protection District in the amount of $97,683.75 from account number 01204700704 for radio system services.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion for approval of item 3. It was seconded by Councilmember Langworthy. Discussion on item 3. Please poll the council.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you. Item 4 is resolution number 19-2012. Mr. Starker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is item number 4 in your packet, resolution number 19-2012, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2011 budget to reflect the approval of increased revenue in the open space and Richard Hart Estate funds. The open space and Richard Hart Estate funds both received additional revenue from what was projected in 2011 city budget adopted by the City Council. The city's independent auditor, Swanhorst and Company, LLC, has recommended that non-budgeted revenue be approved by City Council. Is a motion in order?
Motion's in order.
I move to approve Resolution 19-2012, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2011 budget to reflect the approval of increased revenue in the open space and Richards Hart Estate funds.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve item number 4, seconded by Councilmember Demott. Discussion on item 4. Please poll the council.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you. Item 5 is no action, but it is the council rule change that was suggested at a study session about allowing public comment at a study session before the meeting, during the meeting, at the beginning of the meeting, only on items on the agenda for 3 minutes. By council rules, you have to review it at one council meeting, then vote on it the next. Is there any changes or questions on item 5? Seeing none, that concludes our meeting for this evening. We'll move on to city manager's matters.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to announce that the city will be conducting a test of its early warning siren system this Wednesday, 11 a.m. It will be an audible test for our 15 emergency warning sirens located throughout the city. It could be repeated throughout the day if there's problems, so it's only a test. Also, we will be participating or providing again this year, the Wheat Ridge Police Department, annual child safety fair scheduled for April 28th, 11 to 3 p.m. at the Wheat Ridge Middle School. We'll be providing free inspection and replacement of car seats, and there'll be a bike rodeo for children and providing safety inspections and tips on the safe operation of bicycles. And free helmets will also be provided. So April 28th, 11 to 3 at Wheat Ridge Middle School. That's all I have.
Thank you. City attorney's matters?
Nothing tonight, thanks.
City clerk's matters?
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Reinhardt?
I'd just like the city attorney to contemplate shortening his partner's last name into a more usable form for our benefit.
Well, we've talked to him about that, and he's gracefully denied that request.
Mr. DeMott?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Mr. Starker?
I would like to congratulate and thank the Wheat Ridge sixth graders that came tonight for their essay contest winners. I think that was a great thing to do. It's a great thing to participate in. I remember when I was in the 6th grade and I participated in that, and it's something you never forget. So thank you for the hard work that you did.
Thank you. Mr. Stites?
Yes. I was driving around today going to work, and I'm starting to see a lot of weeds pop up, and let's take care of that. You know, the great thing is sometimes if you know your neighbors, you get together, you can go out and buy, weed control products or whatever. As far as the neighborhood goes, it makes it more cost efficient, more cheaper, but it also is nice to work together sometimes with your neighbors. It's an excellent time to relocate your business or home to Wheat Ridge. If you need any help, check with us or staff. Along with that, please try to do one positive thing for your family or your neighborhood. And as always, please try to find it and buy it in Wheat Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Langworthy?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to kind of say the same thing as you, but it's really great to see 6th graders with all the stuff that they have to do as far as schoolwork and extracurricular activities, actually put the time in to write an essay and really be very touching about it. So I appreciate their efforts.
Thank you. Ms. Davis?
As promised at the last meeting, I'd like to request an agenda item for the study session. I did my homework, and I had made a request at the business district meeting to expand their scope of services to not just facades and signs, but to access to buildings, as there's been several requests from businesses that are struggling to open because of old buildings with access. So I went to them, seeing if they'd expand their scope to start a grant program, a matching grant program with that. So I would like to discuss that at one of the future soon-to-be study sessions.
need to support her with a consensus.
Anybody have a problem with that coming on sooner than later? I'm going to describe it a little bit when we come around. Mr. Goff, can we have it on maybe the next study session or in May?
Yeah, we'll look at what our next available is, and I'll confer with the Mayor Pro Tem.
I think it was this time next year.
Now. Anything else, Ms. Davis?
I think that's it.
Thanks. Mr. Pond? Ms. J?
Some of the citizens all of the citizens of District 1 and 2 should have received a card in the last mailing last week, wouldn't it? Saturday, somewhere in there, about the town meeting for District 1 and 2, and we're really encouraging you to attend because we have a lot of going on in this city, and I'm sure there's some questions and some explanations, and the news is we're also going to have cookies.
Is there a limit?
To the number of cookies. Mr. Stites, you're not in this district, sorry.
Ooh.
Whoa. My reputation was perceived.
I had a couple of quick things. As Councilmember Davis mentioned, at the Business District meeting on Thursday, she was there with John Schumacher and Steve Art, and we talked about ADA requirements on businesses and buildings in the city of Wheat Ridge. And the discussion was, should the Business District have a grant program, a separate grant program for any property owner who's trying to upgrade their property so they could rent or sell, because it's a permanent change when you add an ADA compliant issue, a ramp or a larger bathroom or doorways. And so the motion was made at the Business District meeting it's going to be called an accessibility and usability grant, and the grant will be up to $5,000 of matching money. And so if a property owner spends 10, they'll get the 5. It's up to 5. And that's going to be on our application. And the request was that at the study session, the Business District would like to request from City Council an additional $20,000 for the program that would be earmarked just for ADA projects. And that we have that processes in place right now for facades and grants. But the Business District was going to come in and speak that night, probably John Marriott as the chair, but that the request was for an additional 20 that would be used as the pilot program just for that program. It wouldn't be used for any other grants. And some suggestions have been made about where that funds could come from, but at this point, we'll just wait until the study session. But it's a great idea. It makes the property worth more. It's a permanent change, where a sign and a facade may be temporary. If someone decides to take a sign down or they move out, this will be a change that would actually be permanent on the building. And like Councilmember Davis had mentioned, there's some property owners in the city who necessarily can't afford to make the upgrades to their property, so they can't rent it out, and the tenant's not going to want to do it either. So we figured that a $5,000 matching grant, up to $5,000, would probably give us 4 to 5 projects in the city that could actually be done that we know of, and that would be the earmarked. But like Mr. Reinhardt has mentioned in the past, we don't want any blank checks, so the funds would be earmarked for that type of program. So. And then I also wanted to ask the council, in the past we have bought a table at the Jefferson Center for Mental Health is a business in the city. It's a nonprofit in the city, and they're having a silent auction and a fundraiser for their organization. It's a night at the Art Museum, Thursday, May 10th from 5:30 to 9. And in the past, we've purchased a table. There's a table of 8. And this table would be $720. So I wanted to see if anybody on the council had a problem with bringing a budget amendment forward for this fundraiser with the Jefferson Center for Mental Health. It'd be 8 table of 8. Does anybody have a problem with that being as a budget amendment for April 23rd?
Is it buffet?
No, it's not a buffet. It's a silent auction, and they're going to have private viewing of the Western American Photography Gallery, black tie optional. So, okay, so this will be on for the. Then the last thing I had, this is real quick. This Wheat Ridge High School has rented the ballroom at the rec center, 2 rooms, 5 hours. They're doing the advanced placement testing in May. And it's $675 to actually rent the room. So they've asked if anybody on city council or the mayor would like to help fund the room with some of their public outreach funds. So if you're interested, please let Janice know tomorrow. And we were thinking if each council person gave $50 or $100 out of their public outreach in the $1,500, that would pretty much cover the the cost of the testing. The reason why they're having it at the rec centers during the day at the school, and the gyms are all being used during the day. So if you'd be interested, let Janice know, and then we'll let the school know. But you have your public outreach funds of $1,500, and so we thought we split it around a little bit. If everybody gave 100 or 50, we could help them out. So is there anybody here who might be interested in doing that? Maybe I'll let Janice know, and then she can give you an email or a call. Okay. All righty. Any other questions or comments? So it's $675 for the Wheat Ridge High School, $720 for the night at the museum, and I'll let Janice get us a table, and then we'll go ahead and have the budget amendment on the 23rd. We're adjourned. Thank you.